Welcome to Mika Model College online tutorial. We hope at the end of this lesson, you will have acquired the expected learning outcome. Sit down and listen attentively as we introduce your subject.
Hello, students. Welcome again to our lesson for today. Remember, I remain Ibrahim Samson, your biology teacher. Last time, we left here with a discussion of the characteristics of plants, the plant kingdom, or the kingdom Plantae. We were able to take a look at all the various phylum that we have under the kingdom Plantae. We will also want to remember that we started this whole lesson discussing the various characteristics of living things. We went further to see how organism or life in general is being classified. It was in the year 1969 that a scientist known as Whittaker helps the modern day scientists to group all organisms into 5. That is 5 various kingdoms that we have today. You will still remember we mentioned it before in our beginning lessons. We have the kingdom Monera, the kingdom Protista, you can also call it Protoctista, the kingdom Fungi, the kingdom Plantae, and then the kingdom Animalia. We have taken time to discuss all these 4 kingdoms, these other 4 kingdoms in the past. And today, we are going to discuss and learn from the kingdom Animalia. Thus, the kingdom Animalia is the apex of all other kingdoms that we have discussed so far. Why do we so say? Well, you would remember that you and I belong to this kingdom. You are an animal. I am an animal. A rat is an animal. Even flying insects like cockroach, the mosquito that bites you at night all the time, they belong to this group. However, you would want to know that these examples of animals we mentioned, though they are all animals, but they do not belong to the same group. Why do we so say? Well, a brief lesson on the introduction to the kingdom Animalia will let us to know why we say that animals do not belong to the same category all completely. The kingdom Animalia is also known as the kingdom of heterotrophs. The plant kingdom are known as kingdom of autotrophs. Animal kingdom are called heterotrophs because they are not able to produce or manufacture their own food themselves, unlike the autotrophs, the plants would do. So animals belong to the kingdom known as heterotrophs. Now, all the animals we are going to discuss from this lesson onward, you're going to see that they make up a composite group of organisms or of animals that are known as the eukaryotes. In the past, there are some unicellular organisms that are also animal-like in nature. However, they do not belong to this group for certain characteristics that they have which are different from the ones we are going to be learning today. This group or this kingdom, Animalia, is further subdivided into 2 sub-kingdoms. These are known as the subkingdom Invertebrata and subkingdom Vertebrata. You would remember I cited a few examples the other time, like cockroach, mosquito, rats, and including man. So despite the fact that these animals, those organisms are all animals, however, they do not still belong to the same group. Well, if I ask some of you to carry out some exercises, join me in carrying out these exercises now. Let us see whether we are able to follow these animals and do this. So everybody fly up. Wow, we cannot do that because there is a particular category of animals we belong to that are not able to fly. So this makes all animals to be different. Let us take a look at what 9 phyla we have under this major kingdom, the kingdom Animalia. We have said it before that the kingdom Animalia is subdivided into 2 subkingdoms, which are Invertebrata and Vertebrata. Those ones we call Invertebrata or invertebrates, they are organisms that do not have backbone. Now, the ones that we call vertebrate or Vertebrata, they are animals that have backbone. Now, all these two subkingdoms, or the main kingdom, which is Animalia, are now subdivided into the following categories. The first one there is the phylum Porifera. This group of organisms are known as the sponges. Then, following this, we have the coelenterate. You call it coelenterate or coelenterata, or you call it Cnidaria. So, the next one there is the phylum Platymintes. All these animals that belong to this particular group are all flatworms, as we are going to learn their characteristics sooner or later. Then we have the phylum Nematoda. You can also call them Ascomynes, the Ascomynes. So these ones are all roundworms. Then we have another phylum, which is known as the phylum Annelida. This group of organisms are known as the segmented worms. As we are going to take a look at their characteristics later, you will notice that when you take a look at the study of the biology of each of these organisms, their body is being segmented. That is part of their characteristics that differentiate them from other group or other phylum. The next one there, we have the phylum Mollusca. So my grandfather likes eating, snail very well. So when I was little, I never know what snail belong to, whether I just know it is an animal. So however, it is now we come to know that they belong to a group of organisms or a group of animals that is known as Mollusca. The next one there, we have the arthropod. Remember I mentioned cockroach earlier. I also mentioned the mosquito that bites people here and there. You also have a group of flies that we call other insects, including ants. All of them, they belong to this group of organisms we call arthropod. Even though they're animals, why are they being called arthropod? Well, we are going to know the meaning of their name, where their name is being generated from, that made them to be called arthropod later. Then the next one, we have the phylum known as Echinodermata. Well, scientists help us to understand that this particular group of organisms are the one that we have in the boundary, or the boundary between invertebrates and vertebrates. Yes, those echinoderm. And immediately after the echinoderm or the Echinodermata, we have the last, but not the least, of this group of animal kingdom, and this is known as the phylum Chordata. This is the phylum that you and I belong to. Other organisms like rats, snake, donkey, monkey, and all of that we have, they too belong to this group that is called the phylum Chordata. However, what makes them to belong to this group? We are going to discuss them later. Then I also want you to know now, you may be wondering, why is it that animals, despite the fact that all animals belong to this kingdom, Animalia, why do we still have to be classified into various phylum? Even some phylum are even divided into various classes into order into family into genus, and all of that before we get to the species. Here are some points that we are going to take home as to why animals have to be subgrouped or further divided into various groups. The reasons include the fact that animals have different levels of organization of life. Some animals exist at the cellular level. Like the first group or the first phylum we are going to be discussing later in our subsequent lesson, the phylum Porifera, they exist at the cellular level, and as such, they cannot all be grouped together with other groups that are living at the tissue level. Then some are living in tissue level of organization, some at the organ level of organization, while some others are existing at the system level of organization. Humans, for example, now are existing at system level of organization. So, for this, animals cannot all be grouped together and be called animals generally. They have to be further divided into various phyla. The next thing that makes animal to be subdivided is the fact that they have patterns of digestive system that are different from each other. They have different patterns of digestive system. What does this mean? We are going to study some organisms later, and you will come to see, especially when we are discussing the group of organisms that are known as the Platymintes, you will now learn that some animals have what we call complete digestive system, while some have incomplete digestive system. What do we mean by this? A situation whereby a part of the body has one opening only, where food will pass through, enter the body, and food will still pass through the same means out of the body. You can imagine a situation now whereby you don't have an anus through which feces will pass out of your body, meaning the mouth with which you are eating rice and other things, it is the same mouth you will now have to use to pass out excrement. You can imagine how that would be. So those organisms that have this kind of system of digestion are called incomplete digestive system. Then while others, like man for instance, that have anus as well as mouth, two openings through which things will get in and some other things will go out of the body, they are known to have complete digestive system. So with this, it accounts for the fact that organisms cannot just all be grouped together and be called animals. They have to be subdivided. You see another point there, patterns of circulatory system. The patterns of some circulatory system of some organisms are also different. We have what we call open circulatory system and we have closed circulatory system. There are some organisms that their blood vessels opens into their cavity. So unlike man, that we have tube-like structures called arteries, veins, and capillaries through which blood is flowing in our system. But there are some animals that their blood system is not in that way. So we have open and closed circulatory system. So these different patterns of circulatory system account for the reason why animals should be subgrouped into different phyla. Another thing there is patterns of body layer. Some organisms are actually having 2 body layers, while some are having 3 body layers. Those with 2 body layers are actually known as diploblastic body or diploblastic body layer, while those having 3 body layers are known as triploblastic. So we are going to see examples of these organisms as we discuss further later. Now, another point is that animals have different forms of symmetry, that is body symmetry. Symmetry refers to a system by which you will want to divide a whole body of an organism. So some can be divided into 2 equally without any problem. So you call them bilateral symmetry. Some animals' body cannot be divided into 2 like that, except you maybe divide them into various forms, like some organisms that are having existing in form of a star. Like some groups of the echinoderms that we are going to mention later. Or when you talk of starfish, for instance, so the body of a starfish is radially symmetrical. So, but those that can be divided into 2 are bilaterally symmetrical. And there are some of them that are not even symmetrical at all. So those ones you say they are asymmetrical. So because of this body form, different in body forms of symmetry, it accounts for another reason why organisms should be subgrouped. The last point there is the presence or absence of notochord. It is notochord that give rise to the presence or possession of what we call vertebral column in some backboned animals today, or the animals we now call vertebrates. So because of this presence of notochord that gave rise to their backbone, some animals are not having this. So the absence of notochord in one animal and the presence of notochord in some other group of animals, you know, when we have such group of animals, you cannot just group them together and call them animals generally. So they have to be known by different names. So all these reasons account for the reason why animals have to be having different groups. What have we been saying so far? We have just introduced ourselves to the kingdom Animalia, and we said that the kingdom Animalia is also known as the kingdom of the heterotrophs. Then we now welcomed ourselves to the 9 various phyla that we have under the animal kingdom. We also explained that even though animals are numerous, however, there are some features they have that are different. Though they have some features in common that make them to be called animals, however, there are some other features they have that differentiate them from each other. For this reason, they have to be grouped into various phyla. And now we have just itemized some of these reasons why animals have to be subgrouped into different phylums. What do we look forward to learning next about the animals? We are going to be taking time to study the characteristic features of each of these animal groups, starting with the most primitive of all, the phylum Porifera. Why don't you watch out in our next lesson as we are going to introduce ourselves to the characteristics of the phylum Porifera. Please watch out, and do not forget, always subscribe to this channel so that you'll be able to get more from us. Good day.